Hello and welcome to another 5-minute first impressions. I'm Anthony Malik and this is Review Your website reviewing bingdigital.com. So let's go. We are on a fairly slow internet connection today, but so that could explain some slow loading issues. Okay, so the first thing that's coming to me, there's a lot happening here straight away. There's a lot of animation here now. It is accurate. Oh, okay, and this is obviously a carousel as well. So there's a lot going on. My attention. Oh, I didn't even have a chance to read that. So this carousel is moving a little bit too fast for me. I'll go back to the first one. My attention is definitely being drawn in the right direction, but the content is coming up far too slow here, and our header is missing. Also, the animation doesn't need to be done more than once. Maybe I would even just animate the first one and have the rest of the slides unanimated. It's just, there's too much going on here. My attention is just being split up, unfortunately. So it's a little bit slow loading in that sense, and it might be worth to mention the fact that, you know, you've in software design we have this idea of graceful degradation, and you could also employ that in, you know, in the way of graceful or degraded loading. So you load a basic, you get some content in front of the user rather before it all loads, rather than having nothing until everything loads at once. But I feel that this there's too much happening. There's too much animation. It's happening too fast, and the animations don't need to be repeated. There's a lot of literature against the use of carousels as well out there, and I think I agree with them. I'm not a big fan of them, especially up in the above the fold area. I think it's just too much, especially with all this animation. And I'm going to menu here, which seems to some reason appear even at the wrong time, if you get me. So we'll come back to that in a minute. I'll scroll down here a little bit. Your controls for your carousel are hidden beneath the fold there. Might be something to pay attention to. And also this button works in reverse somehow. So I would definitely look out for that, and maybe use the viewport height and viewport width CSS units to possibly make this just sit at the right height, and get these to sit at the right height so they're usable. So let's move along down here. We have a huge wall of text here. Now, just an important note that I'm scrolling down below the fold, and I still actually don't know what your service does. I'm guessing you're some sort of digital media. E-commerce is your speciality, but it's not really thrown up. It's not ordering design. So are you an e-commerce platform, or are you a web development shop, or what's going on here? I see the Shopify logo. There's different things going on here. I'm not too sure what your message is. There's just a lot of text happening. Trusted by companies big and small. We've supported the growth of many. So this is too much text for what's going on here. Multinational companies providing award-winning, easy-to-use web designs underpinned by rock-solid development. Showcase. Okay, so it's all well and good to say that you're trusted by companies big and small and multinational companies, but I would back that up and say what particular companies you actually work with, because anybody could just say that they work with big companies without saying the actual companies they work with. So I'd back that up. Your user-centric approach has been refined since 1999. Continue to broaden your range of core services. We still don't know what your core services actually. I'm just after noticing them down here, to drive your offline. So what I would do is I'd move, okay, web development, web design, e-commerce, digital marketing. Those four terms need to be brought right up here, right to the top. Okay, I see digital marketing here, but it's getting lost in all the animation. Get these phrases right up to the top. Get them right in front of your users as soon as possible. There is something feels a little bit disjoint about these blocks of text here. I'm not going to read them, don't have the time, but something strange about the placement of them. So we're going to move on here. There's another carousel going on, and I think this carousel actually works quite well. It's in the right part of the website, and it's simple. It's showing off your products and their links, and it's easy to use. I'm going to continue this video or this review in a second video, so we'll be back in a second. So just continuing the review here of bingdigital.com, and we've got as far as the second carousel down, halfway down the page here. Now, I actually quite like this second carousel. I think it's in the right place, and I think it serves a very good function. It shows off your previous work quite well. However, I do feel that the mouse over animation here going to a different color is almost a little bit too much. I do like the way the interaction works, but I just feel like on top of all the other animation going on this page, it's just the straw that broke the camel's back almost. I'd simplify that. So let's move on. Check out our news, tips and advice, and these sections here, and I see that I can't select the text here without clicking into the actual articles. Now, I had a look at this website. This is actually the second time I'm looking at the website, and the first time I notice that, so this is a link to your blog. Our blog is packed with e-commerce, web design and marketing tips. There's not a very clear distinction between what these different sections are. So this is what you do, this is who you are, this is your previous work, or your an example of what you do, and this is your blog. But there's no distinction between them, and it took me a while to understand what these sections were linking to. Were these, like, without clicking in them, were they articles about your company? Were they articles you wrote? So they're obviously the blog that your company writes, or your company's blog, and it just took me a little bit of time, and it's probably worth to make that clearer in the header. Instead of check out our news, tips and advice, maybe change it to I don't know, just news, tips and advice, and make it clear that these sections have to do with this. The spacing, it seems almost, because there's an equal amount of space above the header and below the content here, that's just a section for news, tips and advice, and this is a separate section here. So I'd possibly try and get this block to fit nicer with the block below it. I'd also add a header for this thing here, just to describe what's happening down here, just so it's not a bunch of stock photos that are along with titles on them. They don't see, it seems disconnected from the page, doesn't sit in its right place. It needs some context, essentially. So let's move on a little bit more. The next thing that I came to are your social buttons. I'm not a big fan of throwing social buttons in a large prominent area on your website. I think if people want to share your service, they will find a way to share it. So you can keep your buttons down in your footer, or a small area in your header. I definitely think it's worth using an analytics package and see how often these icons are actually clicked. I would doubt they're clicked a huge amount. Social media tends to be like an input or an inflow to your website, rather than an outflow, that people will rarely find your website and then go to your social media. They're more likely to find your social media and go to your website. Just something to think about. But I think in terms of style, it works very nicely, except the fact that Facebook is the only one to the right of the text, the Facebook logo. Otherwise, I like the little rounded edge, almost circular rectangles going on here. This area here is completely disjointed from the rest of the website. 87 coffees drank this week, 19 project launches, blah blah blah. It really means nothing to anybody. It's taking up some space that could otherwise be used, or could otherwise be removed to simplify your website. Your footer is quite large here, although it does lay out the different areas of your website quite nicely. I think these different columns here look a little bit strange, and I think that's possibly because of your about and help section here breaking this kind of invisible line of the headers with this bottom link here. It just doesn't make it sit right. The other thing I'd like to say is the headers. So these, digital marketing is obviously a header for these different areas. E-commerce is obviously a heading for these different areas. And the distinction between header and subheader is not strong enough with the size, the text size here. Strengthen that distinction, make it easier to understand for your users. I have one other point to make about your header, and I'm not going to make it in the next 4 seconds, so I'm just going to continue this review again. Welcome back. So finally, I'd just like to talk a little bit about your header. Now, apart from all the animations going on here that are just every time I try and think about the header and think about navigating the page, I get distracted and brought away, and it's totally jarring. But I will move on to the header here. So first of all, there is one little bug. Maybe not a bug, but a quirk, I guess, in that so these buttons here are beautiful. I really like the way they work. However, when I hover over services, we get this huge chunk of the page taken away from us, and then as we mouse over it, it fades away. Now, interestingly, it fades to 0, but when it's almost 0, it seems like as I mouse over, it comes back too quickly. I would say, for me anyway, as it starts to disappear, I would not allow it reappear without going over the services icon again up here. It just seems like I want it to disappear and I want to get to the content underneath it, but I think with my mouse, I follow the mouse on the screen. My eyes follow the mouse on the screen. So when I want to get to a piece of content underneath it, I naturally follow it with my mouse, and I keep kind of trying to get to what's underneath there, and it keeps getting in my way. So I definitely look at that. Secondly, the second point I have about this would be that you have a lot of content going on here. Now, the spacing here is kind of interesting. I'd look at that, but even apart from aesthetics, just in a functional, from a functional point of view, you're taking away a huge chunk of your website. And essentially, I think that this particular section could work as either a section on the page on its own. So down here, let me scroll down a little bit. So possibly, see, it won't go away now. I wanted to, thank you. I'd get rid of this section. I'd push these up further, redesign them so the headers are easier to see, and I'd put them higher, and I would put your services, or what would have been in your services, somewhere even instead of this block here, if just because in the header there it's just not working well. Now, it's also done in your footer, remember, as well, so you're duplicating the content here. It's definitely worth, in my opinion, doing a strong study with some analytics services, something like Google Analytics, just to see that users are using it in the way you expect it to. Are users going to your services pages from your header, or are they going to your services pages from some other way? And now again, it's just go away, please, will you? Thank you. Or are they going to your services pages through your footer? If they're not using your header as often as, even 50% of the time, I would remove that completely, because it's an annoyance and it's just irritating. Then you could simplify your header, get rid of services here, and just use case studies, why us, our process, blog, and contact. And then you can simplify your header and remove that big irritant on your homepage. Again, then just to reiterate, then the main points I have would be to get rid of the services drop down, remove the amount of animation and quick animations. I would remove the carousel completely, but that's just me. Definitely simplify this, because it's just taking away from my attention. Simplify and distill your message, bring it closer to the top, get it straight into your customer's psyche. Simplify this text, name a real company, or name the companies, back it up with something. I really like this. I'd possibly simplify it further though. Make sure this header is attached to the content it's describing, and I would remove this and possibly watch out for your alignment in your footer. So I hope this review is useful, and it'd be great to work with you guys in the future. So thanks very much.